Hola, clase. En este capítulo vamos a aprender más usos del subjuntivo en español. So in the last chapter, we learned that the I in Weirdo Cat stands for impersonal expressions. In this chapter, we'll be learning about 3 new uses of the subjunctive that you haven't learned before, which are going to be emotion, doubt, and time. So today we're going to start with emotion. So the E in Weirdo Cat stands for emotion. And this isn't just any kind of emotion. This is specifically an emotional response to someone else's actions. This is important to realize because there are a lot of times when we will express emotion in Spanish without using the subjunctive, like yo estoy alegre, for example, or yo estoy muy triste. We don't need the subjunctive for those sentences. In the sentence that we will be writing with the subjunctive, you're going to notice that the emphasis is more on the way the person feels about the action that someone else is doing than on the action itself. Let's take a look at an example. Yo lamento que mis hijos no ayuden con los quehaceres. This sentence is saying, I'm sorry that my children don't help with chores. So here you can see that the actions of this person's kids are being viewed from one person's perspective, which makes them subjective. The kids in this sentence are probably happy not to be helping with the chores. So they wouldn't agree with the person who's saying that they're sad or sorry. And maybe someone else in the family is glad that the kids aren't helping with the chores because the kids don't do them right and they have to redo them again later. So this is one person's emotional response to someone else's actions. And so that action is kind of tinted with that person's perspective and their personal point of view. The format of the sentence is also really important. So if you look at the model that I have here below, you'll see that there's 2 different subjects. So it's not the same person. We start with a subject and then we add a new subject right before the subjunctive verb. The other thing that's really important is that our first verb, our verb of emotion, expressing the emotional response, is in the present tense. The second verb that's describing the actions that our new subject did is in the subjunctive tense. All right. So we have our subject plus the verb of emotion in the present tense plus K. That's our connecting word that connects these 2 different things together. Then we have our new subject, and then we have our subjunctive verb. So it's kind of like a compound sentence. We're saying, I feel this way about that person doing this action. All right, so as we start reading and writing sentences expressing emotion with the subjunctive, there's going to be some really important vocabulary words that you need to know. Some of these you might recognize, you might have seen them before on a vocabulary list. So esperar means to hope. Can also be to wait. Estar contento is to be happy. Could also be translated as to be content. That's what it actually looks like. Alegrarse is also to be happy. You probably heard me alegro. I am happy. Estar triste, to be sad. Lamentar is the verb to lament. Could also get, we don't really say lament that often, so it could also be translated as to be sorry. Sentir. Keep in mind this is an E to IE stem changer. You will want to remember that. This could get translated as to feel sorry for. So like to be sorry. You'll see a lot of these kind of end up meaning the same thing. Temer is the verb to fear. And tener miedo, you definitely should have seen this before. which is to be afraid. All right. So those are just a few words that you're going to need to be familiar with as we start reading and writing these sentences. So I also wanted to point out that some of the impersonal expressions that we learned about in the last chapter can also double for uses with emotion. So es ridículo que, it's ridiculous that, es triste que, it's sad that, es una lástima que, it's a pity that. These expressions can be used with the impersonal expressions, and they can also be used to express emotion in the subjunctive. Okay, aquí tenemos algunos ejemplos. As you look through these examples, I do want you to notice that the first verb that's in blue is in the present tense. The second verb that's in pink is in the subjunctive tense. And then notice that you always have two subjects. So in the first sentence there, Andrea is your first subject, and then she has an emotional reaction to something that los niños, that the children did in the second part there. So Andrea espera que los niños limpien la casa. So Andrea hopes that the kids clean the kitchen. And so that's her emotional response to that action. Yo temo que ella no haga su tarea. So I'm afraid that she isn't doing her homework. Nosotros estamos contentos que tú puedas comprar una casa nueva. We're happy that you can buy a new house. Tú estás triste que los estudiantes no vacían la basura de clase. So you're sad that the students aren't emptying the trash. Me alegro de que ella tenga un trabajo. I'm happy that she has a job. Es triste que no podamos ir al cine. This last one is one of the impersonal expressions. So it's sad that we can't go to the theater. So just some examples, and you can see that I tried to be consistent with the pattern for you. Of course, there's other ways that you can write these expressions of emotion in other ways using the subjunctive, but this is one of the ways that you can do it. And so we'll try to be pretty consistent with this during this chapter. And like I said at the beginning of the video, it is really important to remember that some emotional expressions are not going to use the subjunctive. So here's just a few examples. Yo estoy muy contento con mi vida. Whenever you see that there's only one subject in the sentence, then that's kind of a good hint that you're not going to be using the subjunctive. I am very happy. I'm very content with my life. Tú estás triste porque no tienes una mochila. You are sad because you don't have a backpack here. The emphasis really isn't just on the emotional response that you're sad. It's kind of just a statement, and it's a fact that you don't have a backpack. Ella tiene miedo de los tiburones. So again, just one subject, and she's afraid of the sharks. Mi hermanito le teme a la oscuridad. So my little brother is afraid of the dark. So these things that I don't know, they kind of come across as just more facts and statements, and there's really no more emphasis on the first part of the sentence and the last part of the sentence. And so you just don't end up using the subjunctive in sentences like this. So as we do more and more subjunctive sentences expressing emotion, hopefully you'll kind of see the difference in why some sentences we use the subjunctive and some sentences we just don't. So that's all I have for you guys today. We will start practicing this in class. Adios.